Hello, welcome to the channel. Today we will learn about the most shocking twist that has Salem residents questioning everything they thought they knew about the DiMera family dynamics. The mysterious transformation of Tony DiMera has ignited a firestorm of speculation that reaches far beyond simple character development. The unsettling transformation of Tony DiMera. The distinguished Count Tony DiMera, masterfully portrayed by veteran actor Theo Penglis, has undergone what can only be described as a complete personality metamorphosis that has left both viewers and Salem's residents deeply unsettled. This isn't merely a case of character growth or seasonal storyline adjustments, we're witnessing something far more sinister and calculated. The Tony DiMera who returned to Salem has demonstrated an unprecedented level of ruthlessness that stands in stark contrast to the relatively peaceful gentleman we've known for decades. His newfound obsession with corporate warfare and family vendettas represents a dramatic departure from the man who historically preferred to distance himself from the more nefarious aspects of the DiMera legacy. The most disturbing aspect of Tony's recent behavior involves his calculated manipulation of family members and business associates. Where once stood a man who valued honor above profit, we now see someone who orchestrates elaborate schemes involving corporate espionage and emotional blackmail. His recent recruitment of Gabby Hernandez as a corporate spy against the Kiriakis brothers demonstrates a level of strategic thinking that feels uncomfortably familiar to longtime Days of Our Lives viewers. The specter of Andre DiMera's return. The whispered speculation throughout Salem centers on one terrifying possibility: could the master manipulator Andre DiMera have somehow cheated death once again to reclaim his brother's identity? Andre's history of impersonating Tony extends back decades, creating a pattern of deception that has repeatedly torn families apart and left emotional devastation in its wake. The psychological warfare Andre employed during his previous returns involved not just surface-level impersonation, but deep psychological study of Tony's mannerisms, speech patterns, and emotional responses to create nearly perfect disguises that fooled even those closest to Tony. Andre's presumed death in 2022 was supposed to mark the end of this particular chapter of DiMera family torment, yet soap opera history teaches us that death rarely remains permanent in Salem, especially when it comes to characters with such complex storylines and devoted fan followings. The circumstances surrounding Andre's apparent demise left enough ambiguity to provide writers with multiple avenues for his potential resurrection. Whether through Dr. Rolf's mysterious medical interventions, elaborate staging of his death, or supernatural elements that have occasionally surfaced in Days of Our Lives storytelling, Andre's return would represent both a narrative masterstroke and a source of genuine terror for Salem's residents. Corporate machinations and family betrayals. Tony's recent business maneuvers represent a complete philosophical reversal that has shocked longtime observers of DiMera family dynamics. His aggressive pursuit of DiMera Enterprises' control, coupled with his systematic targeting of Titan Industries, demonstrates a level of corporate ruthlessness that historically belonged to Andre's playbook rather than Tony's more diplomatic approach. The elaborate scheme involving Gabby's espionage activities against Xander and Philip Kiriakis reveals a multi-layered strategy that requires months of careful planning and psychological manipulation. The offer of executive positions to both Gabby Hernandez and Theo Carver creates an internal power structure that serves multiple strategic purposes while potentially setting up devastating betrayals down the line. By positioning these characters as rivals for corporate advancement, Tony, or potentially Andre, has established a dynamic that could explode into public scandal at any moment. The psychological pressure placed on both Gabby and Theo demonstrates an understanding of human nature and emotional manipulation that feels distinctly Andre-like in its calculated cruelty. The disturbing evidence of identity theft. Several specific incidents have raised red flags among both Salem residents and dedicated viewers who recognize the subtle differences between Tony and Andre's behavioral patterns. The most telling moment occurred when Irna DiMera mentioned Susan Banks' supernatural intuition about Stefano's potential survival. Tony's reaction included a knowing smile that seemed to carry layers of hidden knowledge and possibly sinister amusement. This micro-expression, barely noticeable to casual observers, represents exactly the kind of slip that Andre might make when maintaining a long-term impersonation under emotional pressure. Anna's failure to immediately recognize the deception speaks to both Andre's sophisticated understanding of Tony's character and the psychological blind spots that occur in long-term relationships. Her previous experience being deceived by Andre-Tony switches creates a tragic irony where her past trauma might actually make her more vulnerable to current deception rather than more resistant to it. The emotional scars from previous betrayals can sometimes make victims more desperate to believe in normalcy, creating the perfect environment for sophisticated manipulation. Connections to Dr. Rolf's underground operations. The timing of Tony's personality transformation coincides suspiciously with E.J. DiMera's mysterious medical facility project and the continued presence of Dr. Wilhelm Rolf in Salem's underground scientific community. Dr. Rolf's history of resurrection procedures, memory manipulation, and identity alteration provides the perfect scientific backdrop for Andre's potential return from death. The secret clinic that E.J. has been developing under the guise of charitable medical care could easily serve as the headquarters for far more sinister medical experiments and identity manipulation procedures. E.J.'s lack of surprise at his mother Susan's supernatural premonitions about Phoenix-related activities suggests possible insider knowledge about Dr. Rolf's ongoing projects and their connection to DiMera family resurrections. The intricate web of family secrets, medical experimentation, and corporate manipulation creates the perfect environment for Andre's return while providing multiple layers of plausible deniability for all involved parties. The mystery of Tony's true whereabouts. If Andre has indeed returned to impersonate Tony, the question of the real Tony DiMera's location becomes paramount to understanding the full scope of this deception. Several possibilities present themselves, each more disturbing than the last. Tony could be imprisoned in one of the DiMera family's numerous secret facilities, held captive while Andre studies his behavior patterns and maintains the impersonation. Alternatively, Tony might be recovering from medical procedures or psychological trauma inflicted during Andre's takeover of his identity. The most terrifying possibility involves Tony's potential death, with Andre maintaining the impersonation indefinitely while systematically destroying Tony's relationships and legacy. This scenario would represent the ultimate violation of family bonds and personal identity, turning Tony's life into a weapon against everyone he cared about. The psychological horror of such a situation extends beyond simple identity theft into the realm of complete existential violation. Future implications for Salem's power structure. Andre's potential return threatens to destabilize not just the DiMera family dynamics, but the entire corporate and social structure of Salem. His history of elaborate revenge schemes and multi-generational manipulation suggests that his current activities represent only the opening moves in a much larger game of psychological warfare. The connections between corporate espionage, family betrayal, medical experimentation, and supernatural elements create a perfect storm of chaos that could consume multiple families and institutions. The investigation into Tony's true identity will likely expose decades of hidden secrets, buried crimes, and suppressed family traumas that could reshape our understanding of Salem's recent history. As residents begin to question what they thought they knew about the DiMera family's recent activities, the ripple effects of Andre's deception could reveal connections to seemingly unrelated mysteries and long-dormant storylines that have been waiting years for resolution. Thursday, September 25, 2025, today on Days of Our Lives, will Sophia stop the adoption? Hello, welcome back to another whirlwind day in Salem, where family ties, secret schemes, and dangerous manipulations collide in ways that could forever change lives. On today's Days of Our Lives, the spotlight fell on Sophia, who continued to spiral deeper into her obsessive crusade against Johnny and Holly. But the real question at the center of the storm was this: how far will Sophia go to stop Johnny and his dream of fatherhood, and how many innocent lives will be caught in her web? Sophia spots Johnny, and a crib that could change everything. The drama kicked off in the town square, where Sophia lurked in the shadows, keeping her watchful and suspicious eyes on every corner. Salem's heart may beat in this bustling square, but for Sophia, it was a battlefield, a place to wage her personal war against those she despises most. As luck, or perhaps fate, would have it, Johnny strolled by carrying a large box. It wasn't groceries, it wasn't books. No, it was a crib. A symbol of new beginnings, of family, of responsibility. And for Sophia, it was a declaration of war. She wasted no time in intercepting him. "Where are you going with that?" she demanded, her voice dripping with condescension. Johnny, caught off guard, tried to explain. He revealed that he and Holly were adopting, his voice tinged with both excitement and nerves. But instead of congratulating him, Sophia's response was a sharp jab at his character. She mocked him for flip-flopping on fatherhood, insinuating that his sudden embrace of family life was nothing more than a reckless whim. Johnny, clearly uncomfortable and not wanting to escalate the tension, attempted to defend himself. Yet his words felt hollow under the weight of Sophia's cutting glare. Eventually, he beat a hasty retreat, leaving behind the unshakable impression that Sophia was far from finished with her meddling. Sophia's next move, a dangerous note. Johnny may have walked away, but Sophia's fury only deepened. Sitting at her table in the square, she pulled out her laptop like a general drawing up battle plans. Her fingers flew over the keyboard as she crafted a scathing letter to Child Services. In this email, she posed as Tesoro's mother, formally lodging her most strenuous objections to the adoption. Every word was carefully chosen to paint Johnny in the darkest light possible, and her cold satisfaction was visible in the smirk tugging at her lips. All the while, Johnny remained in the square with that crib box. His presence fueled her anger further. She glared at him, as if willing him to crumble under the weight of her fabricated accusations. What Johnny didn't know was that Sophia wasn't merely trying to derail his adoption dreams, she was attempting to destroy his entire reputation. Holly and Ari, a night that should have been fun. Meanwhile, across town, Holly was trying to focus on schoolwork in her dorm room. Her roommate Ari entered with a mischievous grin and a bottle of alcohol, hoping to distract her from the sting of heartbreak after dumping Tate. Ari, in her carefree way, encouraged Holly to wrap up her paper quickly and join the party downstairs. But fate had other plans. Just as Holly neared the finish line, disaster struck. Her laptop froze, her screen flickered, and then, darkness. The paper she had poured hours into vanished into thin air. While modern technology often saves us from such catastrophes with autosave and recovery features, Holly wasn't so lucky. A catastrophic hard drive crash sealed her fate. The devastation was palpable. Holly sat on her bed, staring blankly at her useless laptop while Ari tried to comfort her. The once lively party atmosphere now seemed far away, replaced by the suffocating anxiety of a student watching her work evaporate. Johnny's call, and Sophia's shadow. Ari, ever supportive, convinced Holly to reach out to Johnny. She urged her friend to explain the situation, thinking perhaps Johnny could help somehow. Instead of texting, Johnny called back immediately, his concern evident. Over the phone, Holly recounted her nightmare of losing the paper. Johnny reassured her, telling her not to panic and promising that they would find a way through it together. His steady tone momentarily lifted her spirits. But then, his protective instincts kicked in. He realized she'd been drinking. Despite Holly insisting she felt fine, Johnny urged her to call it a night and get some rest. What neither Holly nor Johnny realized was that Sophia had been standing right behind him the entire time. She made no effort to hide her eavesdropping. Every word Johnny spoke became ammunition for her vendetta. With a sinister smile, she returned to her email, this time adding a venomous accusation that Johnny was entangled in an inappropriate relationship with a student. With a few strokes of her keyboard, she escalated from meddling aunt to full-blown villain. Sophia's sinister visit to Holly's dorm. But Sophia's schemes didn't end with emails. In a move that defied both logic and morality, she somehow transported herself from the square to Holly's dorm building in record time. And as Ari left the room briefly, Sophia seized her chance. She waltzed into Holly's dorm room with the kind of smile only a sociopath could muster. "Hiya, Holly," she chirped, her tone far too cheerful for the invasive situation. Holly, stunned, barely had time to react before nausea overtook her. She rushed to the bathroom, leaving Sophia alone in the room. That's when Sophia's mask slipped. With chilling calculation, she grabbed Holly's cup and poured liquor into it. Her intent was clear: to push Holly deeper into intoxication, weakening her physically and emotionally. By the time Ari returned, Sophia was back to playing the innocent visitor, hiding her true purpose behind a facade of friendliness. When Holly emerged from the bathroom, pale and exhausted, she took a sip from the tampered drink. Almost instantly, she felt worse. Ari, thinking her roommate simply couldn't handle alcohol, suggested a shower. Neither she nor Holly realized that Sophia had orchestrated the entire ordeal, manipulating events with a gleeful cruelty that bordered on madness. What comes next? By the end of the episode, several questions lingered ominously in the air. Would Sophia's false accusations derail Johnny's adoption process before it even began? Could Johnny discover the lengths Sophia was going to sabotage him? And most importantly, would Holly's life be endangered by Sophia's increasingly reckless schemes? Sophia is no longer a passive antagonist. She has transformed into a full-fledged villain, weaponizing lies, deceit, and even alcohol to manipulate those around her. Salem has seen its share of dark characters, but Sophia's obsession threatens to eclipse them all. For Johnny and Holly, the stakes have never been higher. What should have been a hopeful new chapter with the promise of family has instead become a nightmare of sabotage and manipulation. And as Sophia continues her campaign, one thing is certain: the battle lines in Salem have been drawn, and no one will emerge unscathed.